All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you are. My name is Danny Smith, and I am the Manager of Events and Marketing at Microexcel. I'd like to welcome you to today's webinar, Incredible Ways to Tackle Open Source Automation, in which you will discover why it's a huge advantage of learning one tool and then implementing strategies to serve various development models like Agile, TDD, and BDD over other test automation tools. Our presenter today is Mr. Harpreet Singh, an innovative, results-driven QA practitioner with over 12 years of professional experience in the IT industry. He has presented across national QA conferences, including QAI Quest, and is responsible for QA and process automation for various clients in e-commerce and healthcare domains for Microexcel. Just a few laundry items before we get started. This webinar is being recorded, and a link to the recording will be sent out in a few days. Also, we will have a Q&A portion at the end, so please type any questions you may have in the questions box, and we will get to those in the order they are received. If you have any questions after the webinar, please feel free to contact us at info@microexcel.com. Without further ado, I'd like to present our speaker for today's event, Mr. Harpreet Singh.
Hello everybody, I'm Harpreet here. Good morning to all. So let's talk about what we are going to present today. So the agenda will cover mainly a Selenium tool and all the implementations around Selenium. We will see like how we can leverage the Selenium knowledge or Selenium implementation to implement many other things. So first I will start with the general Selenium automation model, and I will talk about two frameworks which are like widely used in a Selenium model, hybrid and page object model. Next I will speak about how we can combine the Selenium and Cucumber implementation in a BDD environment. Then we will talk about a robot framework, which is a Google framework, and it has like many advantages in terms of providing an interface to the user. It requires minimal coding. So we will see how we can use that with Selenium. Then I will give a brief introduction about Appium. So Appium is a mobile automation tool, though it's like a little bit different than Selenium, but since like it uses the same kind of API and same kind of functions, so whoever has coming from a Selenium background, it will be easy for him to learn the Appium Java API and then start coding into that. I'll also talk about how we can integrate above all these things in our CI environment if we have to. So mainly I will be covering all the implementation with the programming language Java. So, but it's not like Java is the only supported language. We can do all these things in other languages also, but we will be speaking about Java in this webinar. So before I start, so we want to have a poll question here. So we just want to know like how many of you have already been using the Selenium as an automation tool. So you can like choose your answers, and you will come to know later like, okay, how many of you are already using Selenium. So this is a general Selenium automation model. So I'm not talking about a particular framework here, but if you are using a Java as a programming language with the Selenium, so you will mainly need two tools, Eclipse and the Selenium API, and then programming language as Java. You will be coding your framework or your test cases. So this Eclipse will help you to create your test case in a development environment and helps you to create a framework of any type. So there are two frameworks which I just spoke about being mentioned in this webinar. So the two frameworks I will be covering is hybrid framework, which is of course a combination of data and keyword. And the second one, which is like widely used in the Selenium, is the page object model. So hybrid model is a combination of keyword and data. So keyword is nothing like the functions which you will be using, say if you want to do a click or if you want to enter some text. So there would be a function with that name, say click, enter text, which will act as a keyword. And if you have any business function, say enter login, so that can also be a keyword. And the data for these keywords would be, if you are trying to click some object, then the name of that object would be your data, or if you are entering into a login screen, then the username and password would be your data. Or if you are entering some information, whatever information you are entering on a web page, that will act as a data. So the good thing about the hybrid framework is, like, once you have your framework ready, so you could like create a framework where you can write your test cases in an Excel. And not only text test cases, even the definition of the objects, you can also store them in Excel. So you could write a test driver script which will fetch the object definitions from your Excel and will run your test cases commands also from an Excel. So I have marked the two key components, test case and object repository, and I have shown you an Excel where the test case will look like. So here, say some test app wants to enter in the first name field John, and in the last name field as Abosi, and then it wants to click add this vehicle button, which is having a click object as a function. So this click object, set text, switch to frame, all these are your keywords, and the value column, John, Abrosi, all are your data. And these object names are your names which have a definition of an object behind the scene, which is in your object repository Excel. So say the first name object and name in the object repository has an object value form dot membership data Android, and the last name object name has behind the scene XPath definition. So you just keep on inputting your object repository in the below Excel, and you can keep on adding your test case on the top, and that makes your test case. So as you can see that once the framework is ready, you do not need to be a very good in programming language. Uh, you can just keep on adding your test cases in this Excel. So maintenance work though may be required, but that is minimal. So that was only a test case and object repository, but as you know that the whole framework has other components also. So this is a pictorial representation in a complete form of how the hybrid model will look like. So of course you will create a framework in Eclipse, then you will use a Selenium WebDriver API to do your web browser automation. On the right side you see, just now we have seen the test data and object repositories Excel. So you can like list out your test cases also in a test suite Excel. So Excel based inputs are all on the right side. And then you can have your function libraries in a Java file, which could contain your business functions and your common functions. And all these things, test suite, test data, object repository Excel, and the function library Java class are then derived by a test driver. So the test driver picks all the inputs from test suite, test data, object repository, and then it performs all the functions, all the actions which you ask you in your test case to do. If you want to capture the screen, so there is a screen capture utility which you have to write. And once all the test suites have run, the HTML report will be generated in the end, which can be emailed. So this is a whole setup of the framework, how it will work in a real work. Next is the page object model. So as the name suggests, the page object model is normally implemented in those applications where you can divide your application into different pages. So it is based upon a design pattern which is available in Java or any other programming language. So I will take an example of an e-commerce application where you can divide your application in different pages. You could have a login screen, your shopping page, your cart page, your payment page, and then your order page. So e-commerce is one of the application or a domain in which the page object model suits very well. So how does you program in that page object model is, you have two main components here. So you will create the page classes first. So these page classes are nothing but the Java classes. So say if you have a login page, so you will be having a login page class. And that class will contain all the elements. When I say element, it means your text fields, your buttons, your link, everything. And then it will have a functions which you can perform on those elements. So say if it is a login page, you can perform a login function. So all the definition of the elements and all the functions which can be done on a page are put in that class. And when you create a test case, you just call those functions from the page class and you keep on creating your test case. So this was an example where I was giving you about the login page. So on a login page, you may have three objects: username, password, and submit login button. And then you can have two functions: successful login and unsuccessful login. This is the whole model when it will be implemented. It is very similar to the hybrid model. The only thing being differing over here is the right side of your screen, the page object. So I've taken again an example of e-commerce websites to draw this diagram. So you have a login page, shopping page, product page, payment page, and each page has an object definition for all the elements and then the functions which can be performed on them. So say the product page can have a function add to cart. Shopping page can have a function to search a product or navigate to product. So when you create a test case, on the left hand side you can see a test case. So you just refer that login page class and dot the function name. Shopping page class dot the function name. So this way you can keep on adding your functions in your test case. So once the page object classes are ready, it's very easy to create these test cases. And of course you can then enhance your framework to capture your screen, generate HTML reports, or email the test results. That was like the general Selenium model where you are using your Java and your other structure to create a framework. But it has been like observed that the test cases which were created in the earlier model, they were more technical test cases. They were having a steps which were very at a minute level. So they does not represent the business functionality. So as you know, like in the BDD development environment, so we want to have a test cases which are more replica of how the business analysts consider their requirements. So the Cucumber along with Gherkin gives you that access to create your test case in a business flow kind of test cases. So the tests are written in a given when and then, which is a Gherkin language. So business analyst would write a feature file which have a normal English language test cases, and your Selenium WebDriver will perform all the action based upon what business actions have been written by the BA. So here an example. So here is an implementation on a high level. So you have a Cucumber. We are using Java to drive all the Cucumber commands, and Selenium will help you to navigate to web browser and perform all the actions. I've taken an example here. So you can, as you can see that we have taken one feature called test logging. So this is how your business analyst will write your feature, or you can say a test case in a normal general term. So what his scenario is, he wants to do a successful login to website. So ideally what he will do, he will say that I will navigate to the URL, I will enter the valid credential, then I should see the welcome message. So this is like more near to your business requirement flow. So now you can do the same thing, the same feature file with the more than one set of data. So the below feature file has the same thing, but it has like three variations. You can do a successful, you can do an unsuccessful. So when you're doing a successful login, you will give a valid credential. When you're doing an unsuccessful login, you will give an invalid credentials. So this is one example where you can drive your feature file with a multiple set of data. And behind the scene, how it is done. So this is a snippet of your program. So your first step as a business user which has put is I navigate to website URL. So behind the scene, what we have done is we have created a function which basically is using a Selenium API to open the browser and navigate. So when the business analysts say I enter valid credential, so we have created a function using Selenium to enter a valid credential. When he says that I should see the welcome message, then we have created a function behind the scene which will validate message on the page, which is like your welcome message. So this is the code which is written behind open browser and navigate function, which is a driver.get programming code. This driver.get code is written in a Selenium API, and it helps you to launch your browser. For enter valid credentials, you are using driver.findElement, and then you are putting your text, which is your valid credentials, username and password into that fields. So that's the coding which is done behind the scene, but for a BA, it just seems like a business flow. So that was the part where though the test cases are in a business flow, but still you need to have a programming knowledge to drive them. So robot framework is one like which requires a minimal coding as compared to whatever framework we have just now discussed. So this has been developed by Google, and it uses a keyword driven testing approach. So it has like keywords to input your text, click your button, or do anything. And then robot framework can be like integrated with Python or Java libraries. So these libraries basically help you to say to read an Excel, to read an XML. You do not need to code these APIs to read an XML and read Excel in your code. So there are like libraries available which you can attach with this tool, and those functionalities are then available to you. Selenium also has a library to automate browser which can be attached to this framework. So the advantage is this is a ready-made framework. The reports are generated automatically. All the test steps are like very easy to create. It has an interface also where you can just keep on inputting your commands. It requires a minimal programming language skill. So this is an architecture where you have a robot and then you attach all your libraries depending upon what kind of functionality you want. If you want to connect to database, you connect your database library to it, and then you just drive your test cases. So this is an interface which can be launched from your command prompt. So you can see that this interface I am trying to create a login test case. So we did build this interface. This is part of the robot framework. As soon as you put a command write.py in your command prompt, it will open that. And now it is ready to take your commands. So here is what I have put some commands. So say if I want to open a browser, the command is open browser. And then since open browser will definitely take a URL, so you put a URL there. Now if you are trying to log in, you have to enter some text in some field. So you use a keyword input text, you give a path of your username field and what text it wants to have. And then again for a password, you again use a input text function. You give what the password is. If you will be having a button to log in, so you use a click button function. So all this open browser, input text, click button, close browser, these are not coded by anybody. These are coded in the robot framework itself. Only thing you need to know is what is that keyword which needs to do that function. And even when you will work in that, if you just hover your mouse over there, if you put just I, it will give you the list of all the functions which start with I. So that help is also available in the tool itself. And in the end, when you run your test cases, you can see your report. It generates an automatic HTML report. So that is part of the framework. So very minimal coding. You do not need to write any code. You just need to know what actions you can perform on your web. You need to know the name of them, and you just need to know how to define an object. So that was all Selenium. So we have used like Selenium API in robot. We have used the Selenium jar in our general Selenium model. So all that knowledge which comes from Selenium in terms of using functions and all that, you can use for Appium. So Appium is a mobile automation tool. It has a same kind of API and function meanings as are done in Selenium. It can automate your native hybrid and mobile apps. So even the programming language, you can choose whichever language you want. You can use Java, PHP, Python, and it supports both iOS and Androids. So if you have a prior knowledge of Selenium, it's very easy to, after the initial setup, it is very easy for you to write your test cases because the test case functions looks very similar to your Selenium. So this is how Appium works. So you can use Eclipse to write your WebDriver scripts. So when I say WebDriver, it is Selenium only or Appium WebDriver scripts. So if WebDriver scripts are written in your Eclipse, when you start an Appium server, there is an Appium server part involved with this other than the API. So the Appium server sends your command which are to your WebDriver scripts uh, to your mobile phone, which can be your iOS phone or Android phone. And when it fires a command on those devices, whatever response is generated from those devices is sent back to your WebDriver scripts, and you can like capture the results in your WebDriver scripts in terms of your flow. So this was like on a very high level how the Appium works. So behind the scene, like how Appium does it. So Appium has access to the UI automation tool, and in case of an iOS, and it has a UI automator tool which is part of Android SDK. So what it does it through these applications, UI automation and UI automator, it sends the commands to these devices. So that's the tool inside these devices or inside the SDK of these devices, which it uses to fire the functions on the devices. And in terms of how to identify the elements and how to do scripting, so if you have done Selenium earlier, so you will be knowing that in the web browser automation we use a firebug as a tool to identify the elements on a browser if it is Mozilla. So in the mobile automation, there could be three options. So you could use an Appium inspector. So Appium inspector is a part of your Appium only. So you'll come to know in the next slide like how to use an Appium inspector. Next is the UI automator use. So as I just spoke, like the Appium uses the UI automator to send commands to your Android. You can use the same UI automator which is part of Android SDK to identify the elements also. And similarly in iOS, the UI automation which is part of the SDK, you can use that to identify your elements. Scripting, you can do in Eclipse if you are using Java, and the same kind of framework you can build which you have built in your web browser to drive your test cases. So how does you use the Appium inspector? So as soon as you start your Appium server, the interface itself has a link for an Appium inspector. You start your application on an iOS or on a device, and then you just point your Appium inspector to these devices. You can do a record and play through the Appium also on these devices, and then later you can enhance these scripts which are generated from your record and play to do your logic building and all those things. So this is an Appium inspector which is part of your Appium tool. So as you can see, like as soon as I will hover my mouse over application in an emulator or in any device, I will see all the definition around that object in my Appium inspector. So in this particular case, I am moving my mouse over enter your email ID, and then I could see the whole definitions of attributes associated with that field. So in the bottom you can see I have used a driver.findElement function, which is very similar in Selenium also. And I have used the user ID, which is a variable and which has a definition of my user ID field. And I'm then sending some text to that text field, which is someone@domain.com. So very similar. You can easily identify the elements using Appium Inspector or other two tools which I just spoke about. If you know Selenium, you can code it very easily. You can use the same functions. Now comes the CI thing. So we spoke about general Selenium model, whether it is hybrid or whether it is page object model, or we spoke about robot, we spoke about Cucumber with Selenium, and in the end we spoke about Appium. So all these models can be integrated in your CI. So here I have like integrated my hybrid model into the CI. So you can see like there is an HTML report generated here. You can see the trend of your test suites, how they have behaved in the last few runs. This is for the Cucumber. So you can see like you do not need to go to the feature file to figure out what your test case was trying to do. This is a portal which will generate all your feature file steps here, what it has executed. So any user in the intranet, you can see on the CI tool Jenkins that what exactly your test case was doing functionally. This is a robot framework CI integration. So here whatever you have put in your robot interface, you can integrate it with your CI tool, and you don't need to like go and see the results in that HTML report which I have shown you while showing your robot framework. You can see that report here also in your CI tool. So after like discussing all these CI things, so I would like to know how many of you are already using the CI tool, because normally a lot of people use automation, but very few of them have a CI integration of their framework with the development team, which is a big advantage in terms of developing a good code. So please answer this so that we come to know, and if you guys want, we can help you in implementing this. So what's the takeaway from all this? So Selenium is an open source tool, so it has no cost to implement. You can integrate with another open source tools like Cucumber and your Appium to do a lot of things. Selenium supports multi-browser, so you can create a single script and you can run it on your multi-browser, whether it is Chrome or IE, you can run your scripts on them. Programming in Selenium can be done in other than Java also. You can use Python, C# or JavaScript. All these languages are supported by Selenium, so Java as a programming language is not a restriction to it. CI integration, when done for the web automation, Selenium is a very immensely popular tool. A lot of people are using it. And last, the parallel execution is also possible in Selenium. So as the time progressed, people used to have thousands of test cases, and Selenium Grid provides an medium where you can execute these thousands of test cases in parallel to cut off your time. So that was all, and we will have a question answer session. I will hand over it to Danny now. So Danny.
Thank you, Harpreet. It looks like we have had a question come through during your presentation, and that first question is, can we do multi-browser testing using these implementations?
Yes, definitely. I even mentioned that thing also. So we can like create a single script, and we can automate that single. We can run that single script on your multiple browsers like Chrome, your IE, your Mozilla. So yes, it is possible, and it has been a very cool cool advantage to do an automation in Selenium because of that thing.
Thank you, Harpreet.
Danny.
Yep. Let's see. It looks like we've had another come through. That question is, we have huge test suite containing 500 to 600 test cases, and it takes about 6 to 7 hours for us to run them. How can we cut that time?
So definitely you can cut that time. So I spoke about Selenium Grid, which will help you to create multiple nodes, and you can like direct your 1,000 test cases through the grid on these nodes which you have created, and it will cut off your time. So along with that, even there are cloud applications available like Sauce Lab, which you can like take a subscription, and you can like send your test cases on the Sauce Lab tunnel, and they can like direct your test cases on multiple machines depending upon how many machines of subscription you have taken. So that Sauce Lab is a very widely used to cloud-based solution which companies are using, because you don't need to maintain your own infrastructure, and Sauce Lab even helps you to record your results and send it back to you. So yes, so the parallel execution is possible to cut off your time.
Thank you, Harpreet. Just to give everyone some time to get their questions in, I wanted to circle back to the poll results and share those with the audience. So in the first poll asking if attendees were already using Selenium, it was a 50-50 split. And then on the continuous integration, we had 75% said yes, they are currently using, with the 25% responding with no. And then we have had another question come through, and that is, you talked about mostly things in Java, but our application is in .NET, and we are currently doing automation in UFT. How will we be able to utilize our UFT engineers if we implement this?
So Selenium supports a C# library. So people coming from a UFT background has a knowledge of C# or an exposure to that language. So they can use the C# library of Selenium to code their Selenium test cases. So that's not a problem. Then.
Thank you, Harpreet. It looks like we have no more questions, so this will conclude today's webinar. A recording of this will be sent to all participants, and just a reminder for those attending the QAI Quest conference, which will be held April 3rd through the 7th in Chicago, Harpreet will be presenting his session, API Web Service Automation Options with Open Source Tools, on Wednesday, April 5th at 10 a.m. In the meantime, if you have any questions, please email info@microexcel.com. Thank you and have a wonderful day.